So it's about 2 o'clock in the morning on a late Friday night, early Saturday morning, and I am going to try to tell you the story about how I lost my virginity.
Tube it, everybody doing it.
Here we go. So I was raised in the United Pentecostal Church. I've told you that many times before. You can Google it if you want to get some sense of just how different it is from some, being a Baptist or whatever. And I believed it with all of my heart. Every single solitary fiber of my being believed that every single person I knew was going to hell if they were not basically United Pentecostal, because there's a particular way that you have to get saved. Like, you have to be baptized in the name of Jesus Christ, and you have to speak in tongues to prove it's the evidence of the Holy Spirit in your heart. The Holy Ghost, we called it that. It made it sound a little bit more scary. We dressed a certain way, we looked a certain way, and I have friends that are deep in this faith today, and I am not speaking for them. I don't know what they believe. This is what I believed. And I love them very much, and I respect them very much. And a lot of them are great people, doing great things. And I don't want this to be about. This is about me, but this is my story, and this is how I felt. And I just do not want this to hurt anybody. But I also have to just tell it like it is from my own point of view. So I'm raised to believe a certain way, to think a certain way. I believed it with all my heart, and it started to get a little confusing in my high school days because I kept making more and more friends outside of my church. I never dated a girl who was not in my church. I never dated a girl in my high school or middle school or grade school or anything like that. Every girl I dated was in my church, and I never had sex with any of them. I wanted to, and we fooled around and we did things, but I wanted to save myself, and it was to the point where, like, I was always like, what if I meet a girl in church, in our church, and I fall in love with her, and she's not a virgin? Like, that's gonna be like, it was so important to me. It was like I wanted to experience that on my wedding night with, a woman who had never experienced it either. It was a big deal in our church. There's a lot of religions that make it a big deal, and it was a big deal to me. And so I even had like uncles who were like, trying to talk me into, when I was like 18, because I was 21 when I lost my virginity. So when I was 18, 19 years old, and they'd joke me about girls, and I was, really quick to tell them, well, I don't do that, and I don't do this, and I'm saved, and I love Jesus, and I'm blah, 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 and they'd giggle and laugh and try to talk me in, like, hey, I'll get you a prostitute for your birthday, and she'll show you the ropes, and blah, blah, blah. They were, it wasn't funny to me. But looking back on it, they thought I was gay, you know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't have sex with the girl. They'd hook me up they'd try to hook me up with their girlfriend's daughters. And this one in particular, literally, she just gets all naked, and we're making out, and she's all naked, and I'm like, you got to get dressed. Like, I'm not going to go any farther with you. And she thought I was crazy. I thought I was, well, I didn't think it was crazy. I just thought, Jesus is like watching us, and like I can't have sex with you in front of Jesus. That's exactly how I thought. So anyway, I go off to Bible college at 1985. I graduate in 1985. I head off to Bible college. I'm a virgin. I love Jesus. I want to learn everything there is. I go to Jackson College of Ministries to study music. And I'm there to just jump in. I want to be with the elite of our faith, the best of the best. And I want to know everything, learn everything. I want to be one of them. I want to be a music director of a church. I want to teach music on the side. I want to live for God. I want to get everybody saved. I literally I had friends that were in church, that went to church all the time, but they were in different religions, and I constantly tried to get them to convert to be a United Pentecostal, so that they would not burn eternally in hell in a fire just like this. I look at their faces and I would be like, you guys don't understand. The Bible says this, the Bible says that. And I would want to argue and debate and talk about it all night long because I wanted them to be saved. I went off to Bible college and I realized that there was a few other people that believed that, but they all seemed crazy to me. And I started questioning my own beliefs, you know, and the next thing you know, and I was having a great time in Bible college. I mean, I made a lot of friends that I have to this day, dear friends that I have to this day. And, you know, they would probably be watching this video and either laughing or crying, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they can speak for themselves. I'm just telling you, I love these people, but I started feeling like I was crazy, and I couldn't do it anymore. And I've always been a person, you know, kind of just bound by my conscience, and I just lost that, like, and I dropped out. I went one semester, and I had a great time. I made friends. I was very successful. You know, I was popular or whatever to some degree, but I couldn't go back. I didn't go back. A whole year goes by, and I'm like literally, I am like lost at this. I don't know, not lost spiritually because I wasn't doing anything different. I was just like kind of white knuckling my religion. I was holding on tight to anything I could to just go to church and pray and try and just like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't proselytize anymore. I can believe it, but I don't know if it doesn't make sense. But my brother was still deep in it, and he's, 2 years younger than me, and he's still just such an amazing guy to this day. He's so knowledgeable, and he's a great guy. And I literally tried to hold on to my spirituality by holding on to my brother's coattails. I was just like, whatever he's doing, I'll do, because I know he's sincere and he's a good guy, and he wasn't having sex and he wasn't doing anything crazy. And he decided to go to Bible college, because he was in a grade below me. So the next year rolls around, it's his turn to go to Bible college. For some reason, he really didn't want to go to a United Pentecostal Church Bible college. He was starting to feel a little, not really questioning his religion, but he was definitely on his way somewhere else, he ended up somewhere else. He ended up Presbyterian, which is a long way from UPC. So I don't know if it was starting then, but the point is he decided to go to Bible college in the second semester of the following year, not at the beginning of the year. So it was I'm trying to speed through this somehow, some way. There's so many things I want to tell you, but he was kind of like, well, just because Paul quit, and Paul's, I'm the oldest child, and obviously I have a certain influence in my family, and my friends were all wondering what in the world was wrong with me, and I'd kind of just poured myself into music. It was the beginning of my kind of music career a little bit in gospel music, which I went on to be fairly successful at that, and so I was pouring myself into music and living vicariously in a spiritual way through my brother, trying to. The fall rolls, he graduates in '86, the fall rolls around, he doesn't go to college. It's right around Christmas, and he's like, wait a minute, how come I'm not going to Bible? Just because Paul doesn't want to go to Bible college and he quit, I want to go to Bible college. But I won't go to a UPC college. I don't know why, for sure. We went out and visited other Bible colleges that were still kind of like similar to us, maybe not just so strict or not so dogmatic or not so cultish, but similar. Alright, so I'm going to get another log on a fire, make sure it doesn't die down. My last video I did out here, it kind of got dark at the end, so I'm going to try to keep the flames going and keep my face lit up enough for you to see me. But we ended up going to Louisiana, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and visiting Jimmy Swaggart. I don't know if it was Jimmy Swaggart University, Jimmy Swaggart Bible College, Jimmy Swaggart Ministries, whatever it was called. It was Jimmy Swaggart's church. It was a gigantic church, and there was a beautiful college campus, new dormitories, they had huge production facilities, and I was going to go into video production instead of music, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but they had a huge production facility. It just looked cool. Mark was going to go there and study theology, and I was going to ride his coattails back, back to some resemblance of my Christian faith. So we go there in the second semester, 1980, probably the spring of '87, but it would be the graduation year of '86. We enter and we get there right in the middle of their school year, and my brother and I are kind of dynamic. We're a lot alike. We're both kind of high energy, opinionated. We knew our scriptures. We were very sincere. Well, we still are, but we were just dynamic, and people gravitated to us very quickly. And we made, I'm talking about a couple of weeks, we had a very large group of friends that we shared a room together, he and I did. But I was kind of dead inside. I was like really just faking it all, having a good time, but faking it all because I was a little hollow and a little hurt, and I hadn't had any kind of spiritual rebound, and I literally was just holding on. I'm going to say it again, to my brother's coattails. Just, Mark, you stay focused. I'll come back around, and when I do, I'll be glad, that I didn't go crazy or do anything stupid, and I'm somehow going to stay saved, and everything. Whatever you do, I'm going to do, and until I can figure out, how to do it on my own again. Mark jumps in head first, and the first thing he starts doing is proselytizing. He ended up baptizing people there and got in trouble with Jimmy Swaggart, and we couldn't let go of this oneness, Jesus name, Holy Ghost. Well, they spoke in tongues there, and we had all kinds of fun with that. But okay, let me get to the story. So at this point, I'm about 21 years old, and we just get to this new Bible college. I barely remember any of the classes that I went to, and this girl who was very pretty and very bubbly and very, she was like a cheerleader, in her hometown, and she's just all peppy, and she just took this liking to me. But like I said, I had a numbness about me where I felt like a zombie. It wasn't just my faith, but every single person I knew, every person I loved, everything I believed in, every person I tried to convert, like my whole identity was wrapped up in a faith that I was questioning and in the process of totally walking away from. Trying to hold on to some parts and pieces of it so I could stay sane. Trying to focus on my brother, because he was just on fire. Like, he was having a great time. He believed it. He was, just in full-blown, save the world mode. And this girl just latches on to me, and she was kind of wild. And I had never dated a girl outside of my own faith. I'm weak in my spiritual life, and she starts making very serious advances towards me. And we would be talking, and she would be saying, "Oh, hey, you want to go out? You want to do this? This happened very quickly. Within a matter of a 3 weeks kind of span, to where we went out a couple of times, and she's sitting on my lap. We're in this car, and this just hadn't happened to me before, okay? So, like I said, I'm not trying to act like I'd never touched a girl or fooled around or gotten close to things, but it was always usually with people I really liked, and I was trying to have a relationship, and there was some kind of, but it wasn't just cold, casual, I just met you, hey, let's fool around. I just didn't do that kind of stuff very much, if at all. Maybe a little bit, but I always felt guilty. I just can't explain it. Point is I'm there, I'm in a strange city, I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, this strange girl, this really weird time in my life, I'm very vulnerable, and she's like, we're in a car, and she's like just tongue in my ear, sitting on my lap. I've never been with somebody so sexually aggressive and just, it was, instead of it being a turn on, it was kind of a turn off. She kind of scared me a little bit. But it was also very flattering because here I was, just landed on campus, and I've got this girlfriend essentially, and everybody seemed to love her, and she, you know, they had already been there and already had all their friends, and you know, we were outsiders in a sense, just wandering in the middle of the semester like that, and instantly we have friends, instantly have this girl throwing herself at me, and everybody's like, wow, these guys are just, you know, these guys got it going on. So we go out a time or two, and this one time in particular, we come back. We were out with the group. You weren't allowed to be off campus without being in a group. Just a guy and a girl couldn't wander off. One night, everybody got out of the car, and we stayed in the car, and we started kissing and blah, blah, blah. And she said, hey, let's take a walk. And they have this path through these woods, and we go walking through these woods, and we lean up against this tree, and we start making out. And she literally had this, I'm sure she was faking it. I don't think I'm all that, but she has this like mini orgasm or something, leaning up against a tree. She's moaning, she's screaming, she's hollering, you're the greatest kisser, and this has never happened to me. And like I said, instead of me thinking like I was awesome, it was like, you are scaring the piss out of me. You're like, I don't know how to handle you. Just like chill out, okay? Just calm down. We're going to get in trouble. I'm not here to fall in love. I'm definitely not going to fall in love with you. But I can't walk away from this relationship because I'm in a vulnerable place in life. And this feels good. But just chill. And so I tell her that. I'm like, we got to leave. And she looks at me and she says, okay, we can quit and we can go back to the dorm. Ooh, but you let me down. Promise me, you owe me 10 minutes. 10 minutes. The next time we go out, like, you owe me 10 minutes. We'll go back. We can quit and go back, and I won't complain, but you owe me 10 minutes. And I'm like, sure. Anything to get her. And at this point, I was like, if I can get out of the woods, get back to the dorm, I want to focus on school. I want to try to, like, go pray and find my way back to God and maybe reassess, start reading the Bible again and find a new way, to connect. And how am I going to deal with losing all my friends, and how am I going to, my pride, going back and telling everybody that I basically condemned to hell, that, hey, I guess you're not going to hell. I'm the one that's, retarded. I'm sorry. And I had lots of friends, and people loved me, and I loved them, but there was always this angst, of like, why won't they see, read the Bible and see it the way I see it and do what I do? And like, what if they go to hell? But I don't know. So we go back to the dorms, and a few days goes by, and I said, well, her name was Heidi. I said, Heidi, I don't think I want to see you anymore. And she got really depressed, and I felt horrible. And I mean, she would tell me, like, she was wearing these underwear. She's like, I have these underwear on right now, and they say, don't stop. Now, I wanted to see them. You know what I'm saying? Like, who goes to a Christian college and wears underwear that says don't stop? And she's telling me these stories that her father is a pastor in California, and that she was very sexually promiscuous with her boyfriend, and she got caught having sex with her boyfriend, and she was one of those girls that's acting out, probably just trying to get her dad's attention. I don't know what was going on in her home, but she was like very wound up, and she said that her dad essentially threw her out of the house, told everybody that she was going to Bible college, but she didn't have a choice, because he said, if you get caught having sex, I'm going to lose my church, because for whatever reason, the way that his church worked was, if you can't manage your family, you can't pastor a church. And if it comes out that his daughter's wild and crazy and sleeping around, he could potentially be embarrassed and lose his church, and he sent her off to school. And she was mad as hell about it. And I guess she was trying to still, you know, hurt her father, you know, from that far away or something, because she talked about it a lot and she was just teasing me all the time. She told me she had already had a conversation with her mother about me, and she couldn't wait. You know, it's like kind of like her and her mom connected in a way that her and her dad didn't, and her mom was like really happy for her and couldn't wait to meet me. And I have no feelings for this woman, no feelings for her whatsoever. Just like, you're crazy, I'm flattered, you're pretty, I'm lonesome, I feel lost, I'm a long way away from home, but I can't deal with it. And I said, we have to break up. Well, like a week goes by and we barely talk. I see her in the cafeteria and in the hallways. Well, all of her friends were my friends, and the group still kind of hung out together, and it was awkward. And about a week goes by, and I'm thinking, well, you know, I start like, why did I break up with her? And maybe she got the picture, and maybe if we go out again tonight, you know, it'll be different, and she'll just chill out a little bit. And I remember seeing her and saying, hey, you want to go out tonight? The whole group's going out again. You want to go out? And she was like, yeah, of course. So we all pile in a car. We go out. I remember we were going to go play laser tag, and something happened. We got there late. We couldn't find the place. We got lost from the other group. Something happened. We turn around, and we come back early that night. Everybody piles out of the car. Whatever car we were in, she looks at me and she says, hey, you promised me that 10 minutes. And I was like, yeah, I did. Okay, so what do you want to do about it? She's like, well, let's go, you know, let's go get in the car and go hang out. So we go get in. It was actually my brother's car. It was a green hatchback Plymouth Horizon. And it was a goofy, ugly, nasty little car. And I remember us going in there, and and the seats would not lay back. Well, I don't know if the driver's seat did. I know the passenger seat did. And I don't know if either one did. It was that cheap of a car. But the seats didn't lay back, and I remember we were kind of uncomfortable, and I was feeling weird because we're in this big lit parking lot, and I'm thinking, you know, and she says, come on, let's take a drive, let's take a drive. And I'm going, oh, Lord, have mercy. This is not going to end well. I don't even know where to go. I mean, I've never done this before. Never in my life have I, like, gone in a car, park on the side of the road, and fool around with a girl. Just, you know, I didn't have to. My parents were very open and very trusting, and I was with girls in their house or my house or at a party or on a pool table. I mean, I'd done all kinds of crazy things, but this just wasn't one of them. We never had to hide or do anything, or I don't know. I just had a very, very trusting parents, and I could go in my bedroom with girls, and my mom and dad didn't mind, and honestly, nothing bad ever really happened. I don't know. Anyway, we drive out, we find some, I'm telling you, I couldn't go back to that place. I don't remember what street. I have no idea how we're pulling. All I remember is we were behind some houses in like a housing development with like a field on one side and a tree line and like a field and then like houses. Like we're on the edge of a little housing development or something. And I kept thinking, what if somebody drives down the road? What if a cop comes up? I was all paranoid, and she didn't care about anything. Totally uninhibited, all excited for us to be together. Finally, she's going to get her 10 minutes. Finally, we're going to hang out. And I'm telling you, when I turned the keys off and I looked over at her, something inside of me just totally surrendered to the situation, but not in a happy way. And I know that's hard to believe. I'm a man. I have a very strong sexual desire. I'm not better than anybody else. I'm not weird. It was just mind over matter, you know, just focused on Jesus and living right. And there was like a sadness that came over me of like, this is how this is going to happen, because I knew what was going to happen. There was no. I mean, I never owned a condom. I didn't need one, so there was no protection, nothing. She's sitting over there, and she starts we're making out and stuff, and I'm kind of leaning over and touching her, and off comes this, off comes that. I get in the seat, and I'm sitting, you know, just like this, and the seat's raised up. She gets completely naked and sits on top of me with her legs down each side of the seat, facing straight at me. She pulls my pants down, to my ankles and sits on top of me, and she handles all the business. She knows what to put where and what to do, and it was over very quickly. I do remember it, but it wasn't necessarily pleasant. I was very self-aware of. I was feeling guilty. I was feeling like I can't believe I've waited, 21 years for this to happen with her. There wasn't like some magic chemistry between the two of us, so it wasn't even like super, super fun, and it was nothing personal against her. She's very pretty and everything. It was just weird. And, so, we had sex, and, I remember, a couple minutes, what goes by, and she's all bubbly and happy and like probably, kind of at that point wondering why I'm not and why I'm not into it as much as she is. And then, I've got this codependent part of me that wants to make her feel great, and, but there was a sadness that I couldn't escape. And I get out of the car and I walk around. I put, I didn't get undressed, but I pulled my pants back up, and I get back around and I sat in the seat, and I'm looking over at her, and she's kind of reluctantly putting her clothes back on. And I'll never forget, she's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I'm like, nothing, I'm sorry. I said, I'm just nervous. I'm afraid we're going to get in trouble. I've only been here a couple of weeks. I'm here with my brother. I don't want to embarrass him, and I just am afraid. And she's like, well, do you want to do it again? Like, we can do it again. We can hang out longer. And I'm like, no, I really think we need to get back. And whatever I said, whatever I did, I'm sure it wasn't nice. She started to kind of shut down at that point. She gets her clothes on, and we just don't say much, and we drive back to the campus. We're parked in the parking lot, and all I'm thinking about is if she's pregnant, there is no way, excuse me, but no way in hell this crazy bitch is going to raise my child. No fucking way. Pardon the pun. And I look over at her and I'm like, we've got to pray. And she's like, well, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I'm like, well, what if you're pregnant? I mean, like, we didn't use any protection. And now I'm trying to turn this all into, like, it's nothing personal. Let's just get intellectual here. Let's talk about reality. What are we going to do? And she's like, well, I don't know. I mean, are you saying like you wouldn't marry me and you don't love me? And I'm like, whoa, I'm not saying that. I mean, of course I was thinking that, but she kind of went psycho on me. Like, no, I'm not going to marry you. And no, I do have to say that. So I'm like, oh, well, I said, let's just pray. We held hands and we did the crazy, dear God. And I remember I prayed like a real, dear God. And she didn't say a word. She was so disgusted at this point at me, and either embarrassed, humiliated, confused. And I don't know. I can only imagine she must have felt horrible. She's probably already had a bunch of horrible experiences with men. She's got all kinds of daddy issues. She can't please me. She's throwing herself at me. She's bubbly. She's beautiful. She's thinking what's wrong with her? And I'm making the situation worse. She goes inward. I go inward. I start praying like a crazy person. And I'm all getting all serious, and she just gets, I'm crying my eyes out, and she just gets kind of cold, like just cold. And I go, and I'm worried we're going to get in trouble from the school because, like, you're not supposed to leave campus in a car with the girl. But, who's really paying attention? Probably nobody, but all I was really worried about was I was sick at my stomach that I'd had sex with her, and I knew she was going to end up being pregnant. I thought she was going to end up being pregnant. And I was terrified about it. We get out of the car, and we start heading back to the dormitory, and she starts complaining that she is in a little bit of pain. Now, I'm being totally serious. I'm not trying to turn this into a joke or anything like that. This is a very personal, intimate, weird story, but maybe because she hadn't had sex in a while, but there was not a lot of friction You know what I'm saying? Everything was all slippery and everything fit well, and I'm a normal guy, you know, I'm just a normal guy, and she's a normal girl, and everything seemed to work just fine. I couldn't imagine how she was in any pain. But she was like, kind of like, just like acting like, oh, you know, you got to help me back to the dorm, and I'm not feeling good, and I'm cramping, and I didn't know what was going on, but I get her to the dorm, the girls' dorm, and I say goodnight, and she looks at me and she's like, basically, so I'm all, you know, I'm in pain, I'm upset, I'm going up to my room, I'm going to cry myself to sleep. This is her, you know, and you are the dude. You're probably, because it's not even that late, because remember, we were gone out and we didn't end up doing what we were going to do, and we hadn't really hung out very long together. I mean, all this didn't take much time, maybe 30 minutes, you know, so it's still not really late, like we weren't past our curfew at the college or anything. And she looks at me, she's like, are you going to, like, go back out? Are you going to go hang out with your friends? Are you going to go have fun tonight, you know? And I'm like, no. She just kind of pouts off into the girls' dormitory. And I guess, you know, she was reading my body language, because I couldn't wait. I was like, I will never, ever hang out with her ever again. If I can just get her away from me without screaming or crying, create some distance, we are never going to be together again in any way, shape, or form. I'm done with her. So when she left, I had this huge weight lift off me. I go up to my room, and we were like on the 10th floor or something like that, and I go into our room, and my brother's not there. And I am restless as I can be. I'm wandering around the room. I try to lay down. All I can think of is she's going to be pregnant, and I have got to pray, and I've got to find my brother, and I've got to have him pray, and he's got to intercede for me and make sure nothing happens, like she's not pregnant. And I go looking for my brother. So as it turns out, there aren't too many places you can be at Jimmy Swaggart Bible College, you know, on a Saturday or Friday or Saturday night. There just aren't too many places you can be, except for the enormous stadium-like auditorium praying, which is exactly where my brother was. He and all of his friends, and I had asked around, and they said, yeah, I think, you know, if you're not in like the little area where you study or in the cafeteria, then they're over there. And they were literally, he's like, they're over there praying. I go over there, and they're, my brother and at least 4 or 5 other guys were doing this like prayer thing, and they're walking around and they're praying, and they're talking in tongues, and they're just, you know, in deep, basically like meditation, wandering around. And I am desperately looking for my brother. And I find him, and I say, Mark, get all your friends together. I said, I got to talk to you guys about something. They all get together, and I said, guys, look. Now, these are all like prayer warriors. My brother hung out with, you know, people like himself, and like I had been in the past. Not quite to his extreme, to be honest. To his credit, my brother is still completely sold out to God and lives his whole life. And like I say, I mean no disrespect by any of this, okay? But I am trying to ride his coattails into heaven. I have done something, you know, that I felt really bad about, but worse than like any kind of feeling like that I'd sinned, I was terrified that she was pregnant, or could end up being pregnant, and that I couldn't even. So I find my brother, I find these guys, these prayer warriors, I get them in a big circle. We were up like on the 2nd level of this big church, where Jimmy Swaggart preached and had all of, you know, did his ministry from. So it was a big, there was a big expanse of space, you know, and it was just like, and the lights were down, and they're praying, and it just had some kind of a vibe about it. I want you to feel. And they stopped their praying, and I said, guys, I can't tell you the details about what happened tonight, but I need you to pray like you've never prayed. I need you to lay hands on me and intercede with the Holy Ghost, and miracles have got to happen tonight. This is very, very serious. And they didn't question me, they didn't judge me, they laid hands on me, and they started praying, and I was praying, and I was crying, and they were crying, and I'm begging God to make this all okay. This goes on for 10 or 15 minutes, or however, I don't remember how long, and at some point, we may have, I don't remember, to be honest. It's kind of foggy. I don't know if we went out to eat or did something, or we just went back to the dorm, or if I went off by myself. I don't know for sure. But I didn't tell them about I didn't even hint about anything. I didn't say something with a woman. I said nothing, just pray, just pray. The next thing I remember is my brother and I in our dorm room going to sleep that night. And I remember I was laying in my bed and just staring up at the ceiling, and I can't sleep. And he was, there was 2 beds in the room, and he was closer to the wall by the door. And it was just a small room, but it was a nice little room. And I assumed he was asleep over in his bed, but I couldn't sleep. I'm sitting there, I'm staring up at the ceiling. I'm still like praying. I'm still trying to figure out what in the world happened. I'm still trying to figure out what's going to happen. I'm wondering, if I'm going to tell anybody or not. And I am just going crazy. And it's got to be pretty much about the time it is right now. Felt like it was at least about 2 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden, a knock on our door. I literally froze. I knew it had to do with me. I did not expect it. The night had gone pretty smooth. We had prayed. There was no indication if anybody was upset or anything happened or anybody was getting in trouble. I'm just laying in bed already crazy, and when that, and I'm laying there going, I am not answering this door. I am faking like I'm asleep, like I'm 14 and my mom and dad are walking down the hall, and they walk past the room, and then you go like that, and like, dead asleep, and I lay there and close my eyes, and I'm like, what? And all of a sudden, they're banging on the door, and my brother is like, Paul? He's like, is somebody at the door? And I'm like, and I'm, doing that whole faking like I'm asleep thing. And he gets up and he's like, what's going on? And he unlocks the door and he opens the door, and there's 2 guys there, and they're like, is Paul Robinette here? So he's like, yeah, it's my brother. What's wrong? They're like, well, we need to talk to him. So he's like, Paul, somebody's here for you. And I'm like, what? And so I'm like, okay. And I get up, I put my clothes on, I kind of do the, hey, what's up, guys? And they say, well, you need to come with us. And they don't say anything. I recognized the one guy. He was the dean of the guys, I don't know, of our dorm, of the school. He was the dean of something or other. And I didn't know him very well. We weren't on a first name basis. We weren't friends. I just recognized his face. But the other guy, I have no idea who he is. And they just start walking down the hallway on either side of me. And I don't know exactly why I did this or how this happened, but I got this calm started to come over top of me. And I was like, oh boy, here goes. I said, and I start in my mind thinking about how am I getting, and I'm a very truthful person. I've always been a truthful person. And I'm starting to think of how can I tell a lie of omission? How can I, whatever it is they want to know about, how can I tell them? I'm thinking like a car got broke into, the camera saw us leave, something happened, and and they're like questioning people on campus. Maybe somebody got in a fight, maybe something bad happened, and they're rounding up witnesses. I really honestly had no idea what was getting ready to happen. No idea, no clue. And they just said, well, you need to come with us. And I said, okay, and I'm just kind of walking, but I kind of got this smile on my face, like, I'm busted. I know I'm busted. How am I going to get out of this? I got to get my wits together, and I got to get calm. And I remember I calmed way down, and I kind of started to, like, I don't know, I started, I kind of just, I wasn't laughing, but I kind of got a peace about me, like, I got to really play this cool. And I'm like, guys, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, you're dragging me down the hall. I was like, can you tell me what is going on? Is everybody okay? Is there anything wrong? And they said, we just need you to come with us. So they won't say a thing to me. We get in the elevator, we go down the hall, and we go into the dean's office. They shut the door. He sits on the desk, like, right there in front of me. And right to my right, the guy sits down and he introduces himself. He says, I'm Detective Jeru. I believe that's how I pronounce his name. From the Baton Rouge Police Department. And I want to know if there's anything you would like to tell me. So everything changes at this point. When he introduces himself as Detective Jeru from the Baton Rouge Police Department and says, is there anything you want to tell me? I just literally, just like that, like, this is not funny anymore. Now I go into a third state. A state of dead, serious, honest, no bullshit, no more games, whatever's going down, something's wrong, and I am not gonna lie. I'm gonna just be direct, because I hadn't, obviously other than having sex that night, which if I got caught, I was gonna get kicked out of college probably. I mean, I didn't know what was gonna happen, and I would be embarrassed at everything, but I had done nothing wrong. I hadn't done anything wrong, so as far as illegal. So I was like, okay, if there's a policeman here, this isn't like a moral thing. This is like, I don't have anything to be afraid of. I can be honest, and the consequences are what they are. I guess it's probably going to come out that we had sex. But in my mind, I was still thinking somebody got hurt, something happened, something got stolen, something got broken into. They just want to know if I saw anything or heard anything. But they won't tell, because he's like, anything you want to tell me? So they're like wanting me to, in a sense, I should have pleaded the fifth right then and there, right? They're wanting me to incriminate myself. So I looked at him, and the dean now, he has a different look on his face. He has that look on his face that makes you want to punch a preacher. That look of, you disgust me, you are a perverted, sick, bastard, lying piece of shit. He was looking at me with such disgust and disdain, and the detective was pretty calm and pretty cool, and actually, like, his whole demeanor was very professional, and in a weird way, very calming and kind of intellectual and serious, but I never felt like he was judging me. Like, he was literally sincerely asking me, is there anything you want to tell me? Not like leading me with, hey, you fucking piece of shit, anything you want to tell me before we lock your ass up. Like, it was a whole different, he just had a different presence about him. And I instantly trusted him. I just instantly trusted him. And the guy across from me looked like he wanted to jump over the desk and strangle me. So I knew something bad was going down. But I trusted this policeman. And I said, no, not that I can think of. And they just sat there silently staring at me. And I said, did something happen? What do you want to know? Is there anything that you would like to tell us, Paul? I don't know, guys. They said, and then he just interrupts me. He says, do you know Heidi so-and-so? I said, yes, I do. And they said, were you with her tonight? And I said, yes, I was. And he looks at me and says, is there anything you would like to tell us? Now, at that point, I realized this is about me and her. They've narrowed it down. I'm totally busted. And I said, well, no, there's nothing I'd like to tell you. We went out tonight and, you know, I said, what do you want to know? I said, I'll be honest with you. What do you want to know? And they said, well, Heidi is at the hospital right now. And she is pressing, she says that you raped her tonight. And we want to get your side of the story. What do you have to say? Now, I'm telling you, this was not on my radar. I wasn't thinking maybe it came so far out of left field. I saw like my whole life flash before my eyes. And it was like, I just said, what? I said, she's in the hospital. You know, they said, yeah, you know, when somebody says they've been raped, you know, she's not hurt or anything. She's not banged up. She's not beat up or anything. Because I was like, is she hurt? Did she say I beat? They're like, no, she's just, you know, it's just a normal procedure when you have to go get, they do like a, you know, they check you out, you know. And I'm literally like, okay, well then I got to tell this story from the beginning. I said, well, you are probably not going to believe what I'm getting ready to tell you. I said, but not only was I a virgin up until tonight, I said, if anybody raped anybody, I said, and I'm not saying I got raped, but if anybody raped anybody tonight, she raped me. Now look, I don't know if I've ever heard a man who's been accused of rape that I didn't think, right. And now I'm that guy. At Bible college, while I'm in the middle of totally, completely losing my religion, hanging on to my brother's coattails, worried about embarrassing everybody, worried about what the world's going to think about me, and I'm sitting across from the dean of the students, of the men or something, whatever he was, a detective. My whole life was flashing before my eyes. I see myself in prison. I see this following me around for the rest of my life. No one's ever going to believe me. I'm a rapist now. And I just started talking as fast as I could talk. I said, guys, now listen. I said, I am not one teeny tiny bit worried about going to jail tonight. Because instantly my mind played that whole scene out. And so I start telling the story. I tell him how we met. I tell him how she's, you know, coming on to me all the time. I tell him about how she was begging me for more, to be with me for more, you know, to be with me and have more time with me, how we got in the car. I said, guys, the seats don't even lay down in this car. I said, so just the mechanics alone of how we had sex. And I remembered when I got out of the car, the Plymouth Horizon, that I looked down on the seat, because I opened the door for Heidi and helped her out and when we shut the door, and I noticed there was a spot about that big, a wet spot on the seat, in the passenger seat. So there was proof of like where we had sex, you know, in that front seat. And I was setting up. She was on top of me. And it dripped out of her onto the seat, you know, in between my legs down onto the seat. And I described it in detail to the detective. I said, we can go down to my car right now. You explain to me how a woman sits on top of me in a car, in a seat that won't lay down. I'm on the bottom, she's on top. She's riding me. Will you please explain to me how I raped her? And I said, you can look at the cameras. You can see when we left, when we came back. You can see us walk back up. You can... The dean is not buying any of this. He literally is like, oh, come on. He's giving me faces and everything. The detective is looking at me, and I swear I knew he believed me. I knew he believed me. And the more I talked, I said, so I tell my whole story, and I said, so will you tell me, you know, what did she, he looked at me, he goes, after I tell the whole story. I told it detail by, lots of detail. And kind of like I'm doing now, probably making him crazy, like you're feeling pretty crazy right now. And I do all that, and I get over, and he goes, well, that's not anything like what she said. I'm like, And literally, I was like, thank God. As long as she's, like, if she would have told, like, one of those half-truths with every detail right except for the last minute, you know, and I forced her somehow by gunpoint, or I was pulling her hair, I don't know how in the hell you... But whatever happened, but because he said the stories didn't line up, I knew that my friends knew we were out. I knew the cameras would show, because he was like, they were like, well, she said it happened right on, you know, right on campus or whatever, and they didn't tell me they didn't tell me everything. They just told me a couple things, enough for me to start feeling like I started getting calm, and I started feeling like, well, I'm not going to go to prison, because this is never going to, I mean, I am probably going to go to jail tonight and all that, but like, I'm not going to go to prison. I'm going to win this case, but I can't believe I have to go through it, but now I'm not so worried about going to prison, because there's just no way, you know, she's in a sense too dumb to even, you know, she's too dumb to make up a story good enough that, you know, because, you know. So the detective looks right at me and says, I believe you. He's like, I believe you. He goes, I was a little concerned about her story when she was telling it to me. Some things didn't line up. He's like, however, she, you know, if she goes forward with this, you know, there's nothing we can do. If she decides to press charges, I mean, we're going to have to, you know, you're going to have your day in court, but I mean, we will have to arrest you. He goes, but I'm not going to arrest you right now. He said, let me go back to the hospital. Let me talk to her, explain to her the seriousness of what's going on, see if I can't, you know, reason some things out with her, and see what she's going to do. And what I need you to do is I need you to go back to your room. I do not want you to leave that room. I do not want you to talk to anybody. I don't want you to say anything to anybody. And no matter what you do not, if you hear me say one thing, do not try to contact her, talk to her. We didn't have cell phones or anything then, but, you know, like, don't go looking for her. Like, you know, just, you don't talk to anybody. Just go in your room and shut your mouth until I come and get you. I said, okay. So they walk me back up to my room. I go in there. I lay down. I'm sure I didn't sleep. My brother gets up. I don't remember if I told him then and there. I mean, I probably did, but I don't remember. All I remember was him knocking on the door the next morning, the detective. And I answered the door, and I'm expecting him to say everything's okay, you know. And he looks at me and he says, well, I went back to the hospital. I talked to Heidi, and she is sticking with her story. And, you know, we're going to have to, I'm still not going to arrest you. There's still more to do. But you're still, in a sense, I need you to stay on room arrest, basically. And you're probably hungry. I'm going to walk you down to the cafeteria. I want you to get something to eat. I don't want you to talk to anybody, and I want you to go straight back to your room, and I want you to keep waiting for me. And I said, okay. So he walks me down to the cafeteria. He sets me loose. I get something to eat, and all I'm thinking about is I've got to talk to Heidi. Well, of course, I didn't even know she was there. I didn't know where she was, but she had a best friend, her roommate. And I was like, I got to talk to somebody who knows Heidi, and I have got to talk some sense into them, and I got to find out what is going on, and I got to fix this before I go to jail. I saw her roommate walking across the cafeteria. Now, understand, her roommate believes that I raped her best friend. She went to the hospital the night before. You know, her life is ruined. I'm a rapist. You know, she's probably going to strangle me or punch me, or I don't know what's going to happen. But I walked straight up to her and I said, hey, and I can't remember her name. And she looks at me just like, you know, with those piercing eyes of like, you are the devil. Get thee behind me, Satan, kind of look. And I said, would you please give me 5 minutes? Just 5 minutes, please. I said, this is 5 minutes to save my life. I said, I did not rape Heidi. Please, you don't have to say a word. You don't have to tell me anything, but please, please just listen to me. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but within a couple of minutes, her guard dropped, and she started listening, And she essentially started to tell me the story. She said Heidi came into the room, and she got in the bathtub, and I heard her sobbing and crying in the bathtub, and I, was like, Heidi, are you okay? Are you okay? And she's bawling and crying, and I said, what's wrong, Heidi? What's wrong? What's wrong? And I guess what happened, is what she told me happened, was that she, in a sense, led Heidi in a conversation. Was you with Paul tonight? Yes. Is this why you're crying, because of Paul? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my God, what's wrong with you? I'm just hurting, I'm hurting. Did you guys have sex? Yes, yes, we had sex. Oh my God. And she's like, Heidi, did he force you? Did he talk you into this? I mean, that you're a good Christian girl. You're going to get kicked out of Bible college for this. I mean, was this and Heidi lied to her roommate. And she's like, no, I didn't want to, and he just made me. But don't tell anybody. Well, the roommate, in a protective way, so Heidi never told, Heidi just told her roommate a lie. Her roommate goes running down the hall and gets the dorm mother, my roommate has been raped. Now Heidi is faced by everybody, all these girls are looking at her, and she either has to say, I'm just kidding, I didn't get raped, I'm just a whore, and, me and Paul went fucking, you know what I mean? Or, yeah, he pushed himself on me, I'm a victim, and I don't want to get in trouble. And that's what she did. She just went with the little lie that she told to her roommate, turned into a bigger lie, turned into her at the hospital, turned into all shit's going down. So I go back to my room after we talk. She kind of looks at me and she's like, I'm going to talk to Heidi and I'm going to confront her with some of the stuff that you're telling me. And but I kind of halfway believe you, Paul, because something, whatever, I still don't know what story Heidi was telling, but I guess it was just so dumb or unbelievable that everybody she was telling it to were, thank God they were kind of questioning it a little bit, and so the momentum was swinging my way. I could feel it. But what happens next is the dean comes and gets me and says, come with me. You've got to go call your parents. You're done. We're kicking you out of school right now. You're leaving today. So I go down there to the office. There's like 5, elderly, self-righteous sons of a bitches. They had this look on their face. I never felt so condemned. I never hated a Christian person so bad in my life, especially when you find out later all the bullshit Jimmy Swaggart was into. It's all a bunch of fucking horse shit, okay? But I was caught right in the middle of it, and this guy calls my mom and dad. Now, my mom and dad are the greatest parents in the world. They love me unconditionally. They had spent and saved up all their damn money to send me off to college the first time, and I quit. Then they send me and my brother, and we didn't have the money for it, and they're going in debt, and they send me out, and the first time I come back, and I don't even believe the religion that we were raised in, and this time I'm a fucking rapist. And I got to tell this to my mom and dad. I got to ask them to like mortgage our home and hire a lawyer. We have no money for this. And they call him, Mr. or Mrs. Robinette, yeah, your son's here. He has something to tell you. And I remember my mom and dad, I got the phone, and my mom and dad go, Jesus, is everything okay? Is Mark okay? What are they? I said, yeah, everything's okay, everything's okay. And I got to stay calm, and I got to say, Mom and Dad, I had sex with the girl last night. She has accused me of raping her. They are kicking me out of the Bible college, and I need to get, I don't know what's going to happen next. And I remember my mom saying, oh my God. And I remember my dad saying, son, I'll never ask you this question again. I know we love you and we believe in you, but did you do it? And he was going to ask that, and my mom's like, Walter, she's yelling at on the phone, Walter, what do you... And then they both kind of listened. I said, I swear to you, not only did I not do it, but it's not even, it wasn't like a, I didn't try to talk her into it. I didn't, I wasn't pushy. We weren't drinking or anything. I'd never been drunk in my life at this point. Well, maybe once, fooling around as a kid or something. like some parent's house, and we had some alcohol or something. But I was a really straight-laced kid, and they knew that, and they believed in me, and they just said, okay, sorry we asked you, sorry we had to ask you, we shouldn't have. And they started apologizing for even asking me. And they said, well, you know, we're on our way. We're going to get plane tickets. We're going to come and see you. And they start saying, we're going to, you know, we'll mortgage the house or whatever we have to do. We're going to get you the best lawyer. And you're going to be okay. So anyway, I hang up the phone, and these guys are just looking at me like, you just lied to your mom and dad. They're going to spend their, you know, their last dime defending you, you little fucking piece of shit. I go back to my dorm room, and then they come and get me again. And they say, it's all over. Heidi has confessed that she lied and made the whole thing up. She just wants it to be over, and we're going to arrange a meeting. They whisk me down by myself. It's like there's people around me, like I'm still like a prisoner, you know, like they're walking around me and I'm in the middle of them. They walk me into this room, and I'm not kidding. There had to have been, in my mind anyway, there was 15 women in there, like mothers, and like there was some younger girl, you know, like her friends. There was a couple of her friends, but there was just all these adults there. And I, you know, I walk in and I see Heidi across the room, and she's, you know, standing by like a desk. And I don't know if they thought I was going to run over and like choke her, or we were going to get in a fight, or we were going to scream. I didn't know what they thought were happening, but they were all like prepared to, you know, break it up. You could tell there was this tension in the air. And this was the strangest, most bizarre thing of it all, and one of the strangest things, you know, that I've ever had to be a part of. She's standing over there, and I forget whose great idea this was, and I look back on it, it doesn't even seem real. But in the room, in front of all of us, in front of everybody there, they said, Heidi, you've got to call your dad. I don't know why she didn't do it earlier. You've got to call your dad in front of me and in front of all these people, and tell him that you know, that you didn't get raped, and you know, and you've got to apologize to him in front of everybody, and you've got to make this right. All I remember is her picking up that phone and them dialing it and them saying, Mr. So-and-so, your daughter needs to talk to you. And they hand her the phone, and she starts crying, and she's like, Daddy, I remember her saying, Daddy, I'm really sorry. But Paul didn't rape me. And I don't remember what she told him. I don't remember how she explained it. I just remember her saying nothing really happened bad to me. We weren't denying that we had sex or anything like that. You know, that was pretty much just as bad as rape to everybody in that room, apparently. And you know, I'm sure he wasn't happy to hear about that either. But it wasn't as bad as he thought, and he didn't have to come here and, you know, like kill me or anything. So she talks to him, and then the weirdest thing happened. Heidi's dad wanted to talk to me. So he literally, you know, 3 minutes before, he had, you know, all night long fantasized about killing me, the man who had raped his little girl. Then about a minute after that, he is going to lose his church, I guess, because she's an out-of-control wild whore. And he's not happy about that either. And he's got to confront me in like a screeching, the most horrific sounding, desperate cry from the depths of a man's soul, he says. Why in the name of God would you do this to my baby?
Tube it, everybody doing it.